Well, it was a day many, many days ago, and I was buying myself a new suit because of my new svelte handsomeness. And after I bought that suit, I thought to myself, Self, you're feeling a little tired and a little queasy. And as the night progressed, I felt a little more tired and a little more queasy. And then my stomach started hurting. And then I thought, you know what? You're just a little sick. You can tough it out at home. And then I got really sick and really tired. And I started having problems all over the place. So I went to the hospital, and it turns out that my appendix ruptured, which I don't recommend to anyone. Very painful, not a lot of fun, and you get to spend a couple days in the hospital in the scary wards where they don't know where to put you because something scary's happening. Don't suggest it. Anyway, some morphine, some antibiotics, a little bit of time, and a little bit of surgery. Here we are. I've got a couple of killer scars now that I can tell stories about, but we are back and we are sawdust talking, and we are in one piece.
We are back. We're back. We're alive. It has been 2.5, almost 3 months.
Almost
But
3 months.
welcome. Yes, welcome everybody. This is episode 173 of Sawdust Talk, and tonight we are joined with Albert of Albert A. Klein. We are going to get into him. TJ's going to tell us a few things before we get started, though.
Sure. Well, we start every episode after I ramble with a shout out to sponsors, the first of which is Hannah and the team over at Surf Prep Sanding Systems. If you are a woodworker and you're finding that your wood's a little more rough than you wish it was, let me tell you the secret to the smoothest wood that you can run your hand across. Why, that would be a Surf Prep sander and or Surf Prep abrasives. Go check them out at surfprep.com. And if you're shopping there, use coupon code Sawdust Talk, save a couple of bucks and help the show. Also, we're going to give a quick tiny shout out to the team over at Harvey and their woodworking tools. They've supported us in a couple of top secret and underhanded and backhanded ways over the years, and we just want to make sure that they're getting recognized for reaching out to the small folks as well as the big folks. So thanks to the crew over there at Harvey. And then the other thing we need to talk about is that this show has a Patreon. It is a very small Patreon. This Patreon is as the low price of $5 a month. That is less than a Big Mac at Mackey's. Okay. And you could be supporting Jessie and I to make it out to the maker events, to finally get Jessie a 4K camera so that she can come in loud and clear, or maybe some slightly fancier internet connection. I mean, fingers crossed, guys. But yeah, it just shows your support, helps the show get a little bit of gear, and makes sure that things keep running smooth. And now that we are back, we'd love to see you guys on Patreon, giving us the boost that we so desperately need after our hiatus. Patreon.com/Sawdust Talk.
Yes, sir. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Albert, you actually came to, well, me personally, but I don't know where I've been. I was under a rock, but we had my friend Brian on, and love that man. He's amazing. He came out to Maker Camp this last year. So I got to meet him and his wife in person. That was really cool. But after we had the show with him, he was like, you need to check out this guy. And I was like, why do I not follow this person? He seems rad.
Word.
I'm happy to have found you, and I appreciate you coming on. So now you get to tell the world who you are.
Yeah, geez. Well, I'm a guy. I mean, where do you want me to start? Do you want to just give you the rundown of my backstory here?
Well, yeah. What happened? What happened? Yeah. How did you get here?
How did I get here? I mean, I bought a house in 2015, where I am right now, with my wife. I'm located in between DC and Baltimore, so I've been with my wife since the beginning of time, and we've kind of moved all around the world. Went to England for graduate school, kind of moved back to DC, whole bunch of places. Bought a house, just kind of decided I needed to do something. I have an email job like most people, so I sit behind a desk and type in spreadsheets all day and stuff like that. But I've always been creative. Bought this house. There's a shed in the backyard, and I start just working out of there, doing some random woodworking here and there. End up getting kind of obsessed about it. And then the obsession with it kind of led me down certain paths in woodworking. And a lot of that was based on like my working situation, like my shop at the time kind of got me into more of like the hand tool world and like the marquetry stuff, which is what I do, like veneer work and things like that, because I can do it in my house or I could do it sitting in, a shed that's falling down. So I got really big into that, started making a lot of different boxes at the time, mainly because I had a very small shop. So the shop I'm in right now is 2.5 times the size of my old shop, and I'm still in a very small shop. My shop right now is about a 1-car garage. So I was in a really small shop, so I got really good at building boxes, things like that. And the reason why I wanted to do that is I was really into doing hand tool work. I wanted to learn how to do joinery. I didn't have the space to do full scale furniture, and I wanted to go through a lot of things at once, or go through a lot of, different types of things without having to, set aside one big project to work on for like half the year. So I was just churning out boxes left and right while having a day job. Got contacted by a acquisitions editor at a publishing company a couple years ago, asked if I would be interested in writing a book on boxes. Up until then, had no thought about it. I was just making stuff and posting online. Just here's the thing I made. Thinking nothing of it. Ended up writing the book, and then that came out last year in May. And in the interim, kind of started getting contacted by other places. Like I write for Popular Woodworking pretty regularly now. I've had pieces in fine woodworking. I'm writing a book right now on marquetry for Lost Art Press. I just do a lot of stuff, and it kind of, if it sounds like there's no focus to it, then that sounds about right. Cause I kind of just like none of this was planned. And it actually makes things kind of tough right now because like I have kind of a structure to like kind of build a life around this, right? But I never thought of doing anything with it. So yeah, it's funny, like how did I get here? When you ask that question, it's like I don't even know how to answer that, because it's just like I've been alive, and like this is what I've been doing, and all of a sudden, now I'm the woodworking guy, and for like certain things like marquetry, I'm like one of the few people that like is doing it and also willing to talk about it. So that's pretty much it. That's me.
So this isn't a full, like, you still have a day job aside from
Oh yeah.
like woodworking?
Oh yeah. I literally just logged out like at like 15 minutes before we hopped on here. Yeah. So I work, I've worked full time like this entire time. I work a lot. So I did work from home for a very long time. So for about 6 years, I was working entirely from home. So, reducing that commute, getting rid of that, like meant that like I just could be in the shop. My lunch hour, I'm in the shop. I'm in the shop constantly. Um, and a lot of it is like, I mentioned before that because of my workspace, imagine this, but no heating. So like I wouldn't be in here this time of year, like at all, because I was in a, nothing insulated, no climate control. So I would be working inside my house, right? So when you learn how to do things, at your, sofa and coffee table while you're watching a movie with your wife, you can make a lot of things because you just learn how to integrate it into your, like, I'm sure it does drive her nuts, but it's like during dinner, I'm, if I can, pull out like a knife and start carving something, like I'll do it. Why not? Right. So yeah, it is, people get exhausted kind of when they hear that about all the things I do. Cause I have a lot of stuff going on kind of constantly, and doing the day job, but a lot of it is because of how I work. It's like, I'm not making, I'm not slapping stuff down on a CNC, right? That requires a little bit more presence and like being there and like watching and monitoring things. You know what I mean? Like it's a different type of work. Whereas like, I mean, I have memories of me like taking walks with my son and carving spoons while doing it. And it's like, well, I'm having quality time with my son, and then I don't know, I learned how to carve a spoon and stuff. Yeah, so not full time now, no. But maybe. We'll see.
Maybe.
So let's talk a little bit about box making, Mr. Box Making Book.
Sure.
Does it truly start with making a box-shaped object and then just refining it from there? Is that sort of how you got into it?
That's a good way of thinking about it. I mean, I do think that if you look at a lot of my work, I was going back through it around my work around like 2020 to 2023, like that stage. You can see where it really like that, what you just said really applies to that work. It's like you can kind of see that, like, it's like, okay, he's making this type of box right now, and like this one's gonna have like this applied to it, and then like, oh, there's another one like where he obviously started from this starting point and like went that way instead. So yeah, I mean, I think that once you have the basics down, and so like the way that I had organized the book, and this was at the direction of my editor, was to the first like quarter of the book is just learning how to cut certain joints,
Sure.
like certain joints that are just typical of all boxes, right? And so it's like, I think we went over like butt joints, which is like, butt joint.
Box-shaped object.
You got to write it in there. And then it went to a rabbit, and then you go up to a miter, and then we did a through dovetail, and then up to a half blind dovetail. And then I think I did a quick thing on like box joints, like how to, slap together a quick jig and just do it at the router table or table saw, if you want. But the whole point of that was like, here's how to do these joints. And then the rest of the book is, here are some projects where we, implement those joints, right? And we're at the same time, we're going to do these like small little things. And so the way that I organize it is like these small little things, like, okay, this little detail that we're going to add is kind of separated out, because that's a little nugget that you can stash in your pocket for a box that you make, 10 years down the line and want to do. Like I'm like right here, like I have like this box, right? Okay, so it's like, this is just, I guess it's a dovetailed box, right? This is made out of fur, some old growth fur. This was actually from a beam that was in my house. My house
Cool.
was built in 1871. So this is like old growth fur, and I found it in the attic and resawed it and turned it into a box. Anyway, this is a box, and this part right here, it's a lid sitting in a little rabbet, right? And I have this little notch here so that your hand can go in there. And so this, you could do miters here. You don't need to do dovetails, right? That's one that we don't need to cut this to be square. You could notch it like this, and then look, it's carved, and I did a little texture on this side. So if you want to look at it like that, it's like that. So yeah, I mean, that is what boxes are. But and the thing about them that makes them so cool is that makes it so that you can kind of just like try a whole bunch of different stuff. Like the only reason why I know how to do carving at all, and I do a ton of carving now. Like I'm like Mr. Carving. Sorry, I'm a visual person.
I was eyeballing this work today.
So like, I do a lot of carving, right? And so this is a lot of handwork, and the only reason why I know how to do this, and the only reason why I own the tools, let's see if I can get them in view. Maybe no, I own like a whole bunch of carving tools, is because I, was making boxes, and it's like, well, okay, if I want to do a little, that's nothing, right? I could teach anybody how to do that in 5 seconds. Yeah. You hold the tool properly, right? You push it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. But in doing that, you figure out, okay, this is how wood reacts, right? It's low stakes, right? This is a piece of walnut, yeah. Right? If you mess it up, toss it, get another one, right? Who cares? And then I started doing stuff like this. So it's a place to experiment, but it's also a place to like learn how to do everything. So like when I wrote my book, it's like at the end of my book, it's like, hey, remember when we talked about doing that? Like, here's a piece of furniture that I made where like that's literally just what it is. And it's like, I have pieces like right next to me this is a big tool cabinet that I have that's just filled with hand tools. And really all it is 3 big boxes. It's a big box that's stacked onto the wall, and then there's 2 doors, and each door is a big box, and they're made just like boxes. It's like the cabinet is just this. It's just done like this and then stuck on the wall, right?
Do you subscribe to the fact that 80% of woodworking is that everything is kind of a box?
That's my wife, when I was writing the book, she kept screaming at me to write that like everything's a box, because I mean, it really like that to me makes, I mean, that resonates a lot more with me, because like I only, like, people call me the boxer. The only reason why I know how to do any woodworking is because of box making. Like, that's the only reason why I know how to do any of it. So when I hear that, like, yeah, most things in woodworking are boxes, it's like, well, yeah, because I know that, because it's like the only reason why I know how to make a drawer is because what is a drawer? What is a drawer?
It's a
Drawer is
box.
a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. A bookshelf is just a box with some dividers
Yep.
in it, like everything. And so when you're working at a small scale, like I was, the thing that's awesome about it, and I always pitch it for like beginners, people getting into it, is like the time investment is pretty low, right? Like you can make, I was churning out boxes sorry, give that 1 second. It's just gonna
Set your air compressor
cut
refill.
out about now. Okay. I was making, like probably like 2-3 boxes a week. And like I work very quickly. But again, you can make them in, like, I guarantee, I don't remember, but I guarantee I made this in my living room. There's no way I did not make this in my joints in the living room, sitting on the floor with my pipe clamp vise.
So you
like
found it. You found the piece of wood in the attic, and you didn't even get it out to your shop before you just started like making a box.
Well, no. So I'm huge into found materials. So like and like marquetry. Now that I do marquetry, which for people who don't know, marquetry is just arranging wood veneers to create images. I do a lot of pictorial stuff. So really images like portraits and things like that. So that requires getting really inventive with materials and kind of like looking for things anywhere. So I kind of had that brain kind of already. So when I see like a wood beam, like I'm already like, I see a wood beam in the attic, like I'm checking the end grain to see how tight the growth rings are, like immediately, because it's like, oh, this is nice tight growth rings. Take it out to the shop and just slice it into boards and then make it into a box, because like that's easy, right? Like a beam, a 4x4, you resaw that into box sides. There you go.
And do you feel that when you give these boxes as gifts, or you sell them and you know that they are going to end up as gifts, do you still relish in the difference in enthusiasm that the recipient conveys to you versus you as the maker who fabricated the thing?
That's a good question, because that's something that I've kind of struggled to, maybe not struggled, but it's gotten a different perspective on in the past couple years, because I've kind of, and not to sound self-important, but my life related to woodworking has gotten markedly different in the past like 2 years, right? You get a book contract, right? Like, I don't know what a book contract looked like before then, and I wasn't in the business of trying to find out, right? Like, I have an email job that pays the bills, we're good, right? But now, you write a book, at least you're implicitly saying, I have things to say that are important, right?
Yes.
So when I'm making things as the hobbyist in that 2020 to 2023 stage, I have so much enthusiasm for everything I'm making at that point. You know, it's like I made this box that, like, you know, I can't believe I came up with that idea and implemented it that way. I can't believe it looks that good. I can't believe I can like try that. I want to try it on this next thing, you know, like mind's racing. And now it's very different. It's much more ho hum. You know, like this kind of stuff like does nothing for me. It's just, you know, I can bang it out. And so, I hadn't thought of it that way, which is that like, yes, everybody, that's something I have to constantly remind myself, I think, which is that like I forget that not everyone is experiencing my work at the same pace that I am, which is like, you know, a really you know, aggrandizing way to view life, which is like, you know, everyone knows who I am and understands my journey, which is like not true. Obviously, I'm the only one who cares about me, right? So that is something that I have to like remind myself. It's like when people see dovetails for the first time, like they're not like, to me that's nothing. It's just nothing. It's like and I'm not saying that to try to be a certain way. It's just that I've cut thousands of them. But when I first looked at them, for the first couple years of looking at them, I'd have to stare at them to figure out how they were put together. You know what I mean? Like I remember seeing them before I did any woodworking and being like, what the hell is going on there? Like, is that painted? You know what I mean? Like if you don't know what wood is, like you don't know what end grain is versus long grain, right? You don't know what the heck is, and it's very hard for me to remember that. And especially because like a lot of the stuff I make, you know, getting into like boxes, like the marquetry stuff I do, marquetry work I'm doing is on a technical level quite impressive, you know.
We'll get into that because there's a piece that we're gonna dive into.
Okay, sure. And it, when I've hit a different stride with marquetry too, which is like I can look at a piece of marquetry and I can tell you how it was made within like 10 seconds, just because like I've done it so much that like my brain can just figure it out. Done. Okay, good. Doesn't mean I can execute it, right? Or execute it as well as the person who did it that I'm seeing. And there's, you know, a whole bunch. I'm not saying that I can replicate something. I'm just saying I can figure it out. But a lot of people can't. When you look at something, it's like you can't wrap your head around like I'm working on a crab right now, like for a piece I'm working on, a whole big thing. And on crabs, I live in Maryland. This is for the Woodcraft in Baltimore. Wants a marquetry crab. So the top shell of a crab kind of curves like this, right? And it's kind of football shaped isn't the right word, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Kind of like that. And then like, yeah. And then around the front ridge near the eyes, there are these little bumps that kind of go like this. And usually there's a little bit of darkness underneath those bumps, right? A little line of definition. And I wanted to do that. And I can do that in marquetry and have it be like less the thin, it's thinner than the width of the saw blade that I use. So it's like, we're talking like a pencil line, thinner than that. And I can leave that with no problem at all because I know it's not hard, because I know how to do it, right? But like when people see it, their minds are blown. So this is a very long-winded way of me saying that, to answer your question, no, I don't. But I do think that it's important for me to keep that in mind. Just because, you know, people's minds get like, I have to remember that, you know, I experience things in real time and like not everyone else is experiencing them in real time. Like they are coming across a piece of many hundreds of pieces of wood assembled at once, right? And it can be hard to come back to that, but I don't know. I try to do that, or at least I'm going to try going forward.
Yeah, again, it's sort of like just relating from a different perspective again, because I do wood turning, right? So I'm a renegade round wood weirdo, right?
Okay.
But that also means that like when I can take a piece of green wood, spin it up into a centerpiece size bowl, and then hand it to somebody, it's like, that's much like you, like that's a Tuesday, right? but your choices are deliberate and you're making design calls. And then when you hand it to somebody,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
And it's the gift giving side of being I don't want to use the word production crafts person because I'm not that big yet, but like someone who produces in the name of creating to give away instead of cherishing myself, right? I sometimes forget that the special that gets imparted when it becomes a gift versus when it's the project that we're working on.
Okay.
And that's always something that I like to ask people who make and sell and make and give. And keepsake boxes are a wonderful, relatable kind of thing as well, because like there's art, there's design, there's your passion and talent, but then that all gets manifested into.
I think I went one way with what you were talking about.
I loved your answer, but I was just wondering if that's
and thinking about it, I mean, the way I am with my work, and I forget that, like, again, not everyone knows what I very rarely sell anything. I'm not I don't like selling. I'm not a business person. Like, again, getting back to like having a day job, a lot of the reason why I do have a day job is so that I don't have to make money doing this. And part of that's because like taking money makes me very uncomfortable. I just don't like it. I don't like talking, I don't like, my wife handles all the money, and then I'm a little baby and I get my allowance, and then I can go buy my trinkets, and then we're good, right? And that's all it has to be, right? But I also love giving my stuff away. Like, I have the second I am finished making something, I have no interest in keeping it anymore. It is out of my mind. I want to give it to someone that's like instantly, like, trying to think of who would enjoy it. Absolutely every single, like, all these, like, I make a lot, like, this is for a vise that is for the crab thing is going on this vise. It's for the Woodcraft in Baltimore. I'm just going to give it to the owner there because he's been a nice guy to me. I have another vise. Like, I give stuff away all the time. And the other thing, getting into that, I love having other people's work. If I could turn this like this way, you'd see, like, just, I have a ton of other people's artwork in this place. I buy boxes from people all the time. I buy, I have carvings from people. I have tools that people have made, and I know how to make a box just fine. But I bought a box for my marquetry supplies recently from this guy that I've been following on Instagram for a while, because it's just like the coolest little box. And it's like, well, could I make it? Yeah, I could make it. I could copy that in like a hot second, probably. But, like, first off, that's not cool. And secondly, that it's his design. It's like it's his thing. Like, I don't want to make it. You know what I mean? Like, I want him to make it, and I want to have it from him. You know what I mean? And in the same way, like, I want to do that for other people, and maybe I just don't think about it from their perspective. I think about it more from my perspective. You know what I mean? Like, I always say that to people, like, when I give them things, it's like, this is a very self-interested pursuit for me. Like, I'm giving you something, but, like, I'm not really thinking about you. I'm thinking about how good it makes me feel to know that, like, haha, you're stuck with my art now. And, like, now it's in your house. And, like, well, now people are going to ask you, like, they come and they see it, they're going to ask you about it, and you're going to have to tell them about me. Or you're going to, you know what I mean? You're going to be, oh, it's this guy, Albert, this, like, goofy dude who makes this thing. And, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. And I have, to that end, I have a lot of my work in, like, professional woodworker shops, because I make a lot of these vices, like hand carved vices with marquetry on them. And, like, that's, like, the coolest thing in the world to me, is that, like, I have work that's being used by people to make work for other people. And, like, the chair I'm sitting on was made by my friend Shay, who I made him a vise, and he undoubtedly used that vise to make components of this chair. So it's like, I don't know, it's very cool. And, like, could I make a chair? I could probably make a chair. I don't know if I could make a chair. I'm not a chair maker. Chair making is like, ooh.
It's mostly a box.
I don't know about that. The chair making is
Oh my gosh.
Chair making is like the
We're not getting TJ into talking about chairs.
Oh,
we talk
boy.
about chairs all day.
Okay,
I'm-
so this ties into some other stuff going on with you and working alongside Christopher Schwartz at Law
Yeah,
School.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
because I'm getting in the chair
Chris-
people world.
Christopher's book, the chair book, not Make a Chair from BS, but like the stick chair book, is prose. It is this close to poetry in the way that it's executed. I don't know if you've gotten cover to cover on it, but like maybe one of the coolest woodworking books that I've read in 15 years.
Jeez. Oh, so I've kind of gotten thrust into that world recently. Or that maybe that not thrust into that world rather. So I guess to give it a little background, after I wrote this book on boxes, or while I was writing the book on boxes, because I was like kind of a hired gun for the box book, because like the way publishing works is for these large publishing companies, it's like they need certain books to come out on a certain publication schedule, right? So it's like, well, we need this type of book. This is a large craft publisher that I wrote for, and let's find a doofus that's willing to do it. Okay, type in Instagram, I look like a doofus. So I said yes to that, right? So, but while I was writing that, I was like, I really want to write a book on marquetry. And if I can prove to these people that I can write a book on box making, then they'll probably let me write a book on marquetry. So I finished the book on box making. I go back to them and I say, I'd like to write a book on marquetry. I submit a whole proposal to them. They read it and they're like, yeah, we like it, but we just don't think the demand is there. Marquetry is like, how many people are doing it, right? Like, I get it. And I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, okay, that's I totally understand, fine. And I just like shelved it for a while. And then I was like, you know what, screw it. And I emailed Chris one day just because I had his email from a different thing. I was like, would you have any interest in this? And then like about an hour later, I was buying plane tickets out to Kentucky to head down there and meet him and Megan, who's the editor at Lost Art Press. So, but in the meantime, I've become close friends with this guy Alex Marshall, he just wrote an article for the Stick Chair Journal. I don't know if you've kept up with what Chris has been posting on that. This goofy chair, the Lincolnshire chair or something like that. It's like got a really wide seat, but I'm like all in those chair people stuff, and like I'm off on they're like so into their chair making, and my friend Shay, the close friend of mine, is like super into the chair world. Like he just bought a hickory bark harvester from Brian Boggs, if that means anything to you. Like this is like so deep into and like I'm just over here doing my own little like things with flowers and birds, and the chair people are like so intense. They're like so intense about their chairs.
But okay, we do kind of need to transition in the sake of time, because like, okay, we're going over. Sorry, we're going over. This is going to happen. If you have to do bedtime for littles, keep us posted. But like there's a handful of different marquetry subjects that we're just going to kind of have to like lightning round as best as we can. But you give great answers to these questions. The first of which is, one of the intersections of woodworking, biology, and science and marquetry is spalted wood. Okay. And you have a spalted red maple leaf marquetry piece that has black spalt lines crawling through it. And it is breathtaking. And granted, you may have a great photo studio that is capturing some of the colors that are in that thing, but it screams through the telephone.
So thank you. That one is pretty intense in person. So that one is honestly the capturing stuff like that on camera is a little bit harder. And so I'm glad that it comes across in that. That one is a particularly interesting piece that I did, because that's coming out in an article. I wrote an article about that. That's coming out for Popular Woodworking. That's not just spalting. That's the spalted wood, but I also create that veneer. That's not just, you're not just looking at a veneer, you're also looking at light passing through that veneer. So that's why it looks so bright and iridescent, the piece that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So when I create that veneer, when you normally create veneer and you go it through a bandsaw, right, you're slicing it so it's long grain. What you're looking at there is end grain. So I take that and I'm basically cross-cutting
Is
a
it
piece of
stabilized beforehand? Okay.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Sorry,
And
I'm
that's
not
the
diving
only
too
no,
far,
you're
but like Mr. Cactus Juice,
absolutely right.
the wood burners were weird, man. Like,
No, but and that's what got my head thinking about it. Was like, okay, well, I was given a block of stabilized spalted maple and was like, here you go, see what you can do with it. And I was like, well, I could just try end grain veneers on this because the end grain looked interesting enough on its own. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to slice end grain veneers. Oh wow, these end grain veneers look great. And then I was making a piece, a completely different piece out of it, and ended up holding it up to the light, and then the light was only passing through those end grain veneers, and it haven't even occurred to me, like, of course that's going to happen, right? You think about the structure of wood, right? It's like your light is passing through the straws instead of the straws blocking the light on the other veneers, right? And so that's why I took that and was like, well, what if I made a whole thing like the maple leaf? And then the reason why those veins, you can see the veins in the maple leaf, like the individual sections, is that's like Wenge long grain veneer. So that's blocking the light. So like that piece is like all kinds of goofy and crazy.
It rips. And then
That
the other
one's
thing
intense.
that the spalted wood brings up is we had a guest 8 months ago almost, Jesse. Is that right?
Dr.
I don't know. Time
Terry?
and space are wibbly wobbly, but we had Dr. Sari Robinson on the show.
No, yeah.
Who was Dr. Spalting. And if you join her Patreon as a marquetry artist, that will get you access to her fungal pigment library.
This is you're the second person to tell me about this in like the last 2 weeks. Because I had an interview
Really?
with Mike Condal, who is a professor at NCAT in North Carolina. He's like a professor of philosophy and humor. He's also a woodworker, and he interviewed me on this stuff. And he was like, "Oh, you got to talk about this spalting pigment stuff." And I was like, "Okay, I gotta," because I'm obviously pigment. I mean, dear Lord, you think I work with pigments? And that would be, I mean, crazy cool. Right?
But I mean,
it's
like a $50 a month Patreon, right? It gets you access to her spalting fungus. And if you haven't read their books, Dr. Sari's books, Spalting 101, Living with Wood, and Spalted Wood, get on Amazon, get them.
Word. And that's so cool because I like right now the thing I mentioned, the crab that I'm making, is a Maryland blue crab, right? Well, blue is a tough thing to get, right? And yeah. Well, and what I'm using now is I have a piece of spalted beech, right? That's been stabilized and dyed with the cactus juice and stuff like that. And that's what I'm using, and that's fine, but it'd be nice to be able to get color without having to rely on, like aniline dyes or anything like that,
Right. So there's a fungus called Chlorosiboria, which is blue elf's cup, is what it's called. It's out in nature, and it is famous, and it has a historical. Dr. Sari will tell you all of this.
Thing. Okay, because
they're way obsessed with this. But it creates a blue-green tint to wood as a spalting result.
I've gotten some of that. I know what you're talking about because I've gotten it in like there was this maple board that I forget, Winwood LLC on Instagram. He was just posting like all these boards, and it's like some maple board that it was like some spalted maple board, curly, and like, to me looked like crap, but for veneer work, I mean, fantastic, because you can get any. And it had like these streaks of blue in it, and I was like, get that on, like, put that in a box right now and ship it over to me, because blue is like impossible to get. And I forget what I ended up using it for. I ended up using for I don't know if you saw, there's a piece that I did that was pretty popular. It's a flamingo in water, and the reflection goes into the water, so it's like a back and forth and back and forth. So to get that blue ish in the water, I was using maple. But I should look into this spalting stuff, because that's really where, that's where the money is.
When you're inoculating white woods with spalting fungi, you're cultivating that stain the way that it could have been encountered in nature also, right? So it's not
Yeah.
spit or India ink
Yeah.
or
It's so
calligraphy
cool.
stuff, right?
Yeah. There's a little like that little added like just when you talk about it, that little. I mean, because that's the whole like right like marquetry, right? Like why do marquetry to begin with, right? It's like I'm obviously setting limitations on myself for a reason, right? I could just paint that. Like the pictures that I could do, I could just use paint, right? But I'm limiting myself to wood, so I may as well limit myself to the pigments to like I can only get pigments from nature. Like I like
Well,
that.
it's kind of like Ike Winters and his like artwork that he makes, and all of it is just scrap wood. He doesn't paint anything or
Mm,
any like everything he finds he uses in his art, just cuts it. Like that's it.
that's
So,
cool.
which is cool. But now we're gonna have, you know, in a year, a book coming from Albert that's all about spalting because he's gonna have a new
Oh no.
hyperfixation
Oh
now.
God, yeah, I know. I'm one of those people. That's my problem. I gotta
It's
stay
not a bad
focused.
thing.
Yeah, well,
You've taken
it's not.
Sorry, you've taken marquetry though also to you're like teaching classes, correct?
Yeah, I'm doing quite a few. I teach here, so I built this shop. Well, I built this shop. I paid a crew of people who know what they're doing to build this shop for me last year. Um,
But it's a
at be,
box.
It is a box. It's a very complex box that sits on an extremely expensive slab of concrete that I didn't feel like figuring out how to pour myself. Um, so when I built this shop, and you can probably tell just by looking at it, comfort was like the number one. That was it. That's the only thing I cared about. And like I have wonderful tools in here, but the wonderful like machines were never a part of the vision in here. The money was always going to go towards like dust collection, you know, having nice pine walls, having the mini split and all that stuff because I do teach in here and I wanted people to be comfortable. And marquetry is really easy to teach in a small space because I do everything by hand. I don't use any machines, no scroll saws. I use a fret saw. So we all just sit around the table and do it in here. So I teach in here and I teach at like Woodcraft in Baltimore. I'm teaching at like a bunch of different craft schools this year. I'll teach anywhere. I just say yes to everything, and then like and then at the end of the year, I'm like, I finally like take a breath and then like see all the stuff I've done, and I'm like, okay, that's great. But there's no focus to it at all, which makes things
Well,
tough.
it seems to be working.
Yeah, stumbling through it.
Okay,
I'll get through
so
it.
is there any activity that you participate in that's not woodworking that you use to find relaxation when the walls are going like this? Like how do you unwind that isn't getting out a razor saw and cutting
That's
a
a
double?
good question. I mean, I recently, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the podcasts I listen to where the host is like exactly like me said that he's going to take 2026 to try and learn how to relax. And I was like, you know what? That's what I got to do. That's what I have to do. So then this is exactly related to your question. What I've started to do this year is I pulled the electronic drum kit out of the attic, and which I used to play drums for a very long time, and I played here and there and in bits and pieces in like bands in my 20s and stuff like that. But I also told myself when I took it down, it's like we're just doing this, man. We're just doing this. It's not we're not like going to go out and buy every book on like how to like get really good at drums, and we're not going to try and like join a band and then be a big thing. Like this is just the thing. You're going to go and sit down and hit the thing. So I'm trying to do that. Drums, a little bit of music. I'm a horrible guitarist, which is very helpful to like, yeah, like you pick up the guitar and it's like, I'm just having fun. And then it's like, well, I'm not good enough at this to like put enough pressure on myself, right? It's like, so music, I guess, would
Yeah.
be the answer to that.
I bought a
Is your
ukulele years ago because I figured I couldn't cry and play the ukulele at the same time.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Well, you can't?
No, try it. It's impossible.
Okay.
is your son into any of the woodworking stuff, or is he like, nah, dad? No.
Not at all. And it's like, I feel it's like crazy to me because I feel like part of me is like, hey bud, like I kind of have like everything. Like I have like everything. Like all my stuff is so nice. Like all my stuff is like brand new and like I have all the hand tools and it's like I know how to use all of them. Like I'm just like I have a fantasy life. You know what I mean? Like my entire life is a fantasy. And he has access to my fantasy life and he has like no interest in it. And it's like he's going to get to be like I feel like he's going to get to be like 18 or something like that and like he's just going to be like, "Well, doesn't everybody's dad just like kind of like go off into their shop and like kind of be an obsessive weirdo about things?" And like this is just the normal thing because I don't try to force him to do anything. So it's like I'm very because it's like he's if he doesn't want to do it, he's not going to want to do it, right? It's like I don't want to like pull teeth through it. So no, he's not interested at all. So but because I don't force him to get into it, I think he just thinks that this is like normal stuff. Like this, everything I do is normal to him.
Well, your fantasy life doesn't have to be his fantasy life.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm absolutely fine. My wife has no interest in woodworking either, like none whatsoever, zero, zilch, none. Which I mean, I'm like, you got a jointer, you got a 12-inch jointer right there that you can use whenever you want. Like, why wouldn't you like get into woodworking? Are you crazy? Look at the size of that bandsaw. Are you crazy? Like, it's right in your backyard, and she has no interest in it. But
Did
oh
she
well.
did she ex-nate the word box in your house at any point when you were writing the book? Like was she like, I
No,
can't
no.
hear the word box again? Like stop
She's
saying
way,
boxes.
she's way more. She's super supportive of the whole thing. I mean, like she doesn't. I mean, the amount of crap that she has put up with because, like, again, I had to learn how to woodwork mostly in my living room. Like it's, my old shop, I was working in there, but in the summer in DC, it's like it's awful. So like you don't want to work, in the like the middle of August outside in an unconditioned shed that's just trapping heat. And then in the winter it's cold, so you don't want to work out there. So like I'm working in the house and so you hears hand planes like the shh 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 sounds of like those repeated sounds, the marquetry sounds. She puts up with a lot. And she never complains about it. I'm very surprised. Never been like kicked out of the house for anything. Deals with it.
That's awesome. All right, TJ, you want to hop in and
Yeah, so we are getting on the end of the hour, and I feel like we need to come back and do just a whole marquetry discussion
I talk
because
too much.
I have opinions and I have point of views, and I want to talk scrolling versus razor blade versus like the lasers and the CNCs and like how it's like there. We'll do it on another time. I do, however, get to ask you two questions. The first of which is, like, I know we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but is there anything that you wanted to talk about that you didn't get a chance to talk about yet?
No, I don't I mean, not particularly. I mean, I think if I had to, no. I'm going to go with no, because I will go off on a tangent.
We will do a victory lap in like 3 to 6 months. Pinky swear. Okay. Here you go.
Perfect.
All right. Good deal. That does bring us to a quick lap through the sponsors and then the final question. The first of which is Surf Prep Sanding Systems. There are a few people that watch this show that do a little bit of interior remodeling every now and then, and that means doing drywall work. Her eyes should poke up, right? Surf Prep's dust collector and their drywall sanding discs, the big 9-inch donuts, are super rad. If you guys are into that kind of thing, go check them out at surfprep.com. If you're shopping at Surf Prep, use coupon code Sawdust Talk. Also, if you look over Albert's shoulder there's a really, really handsome Alpha bandsaw over there. And I know before that Alpha bandsaw was there, he had a pretty slick big eye fence for another saw. And so we're going to give another high five to Harvey and their silent and sneaky support for us and our channel. They're really good people over there. If you get a chance to shop over there, do so. And lastly, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/sawdust talk for less money than probably like a extra large coffee from Seven Brew. If you have those in your part of town, you could be supporting Jessie and I to make cool stuff and be the righteous folks that we are. So patreon.com/sawdust talk. Final question, Albert, is when we're on this show, we try to ask our guests to come up with like a motivational thought or a quote or like a reason to like kick open the door to your workshop and like either overcome a mess or like make a brand new mess and just like get awesome. What would you like to share with our viewers and listeners?
So you gave me a chance to think about this. So I've been thinking about this. Just don't be afraid to just trash something or like have something go completely haywire. When I started out, I feel like I held back from trying so many things because I was so worried about something not working out, right? And it ruining a project. And I have gotten to the point now where I am 100% okay with projects going in the trash at the very end after working on them the entire time. And I've trained myself to be okay with that. And in training myself to be okay with that, I have learned a lot of things because it means I'm willing to take risks. It means I'm willing to just try something that makes absolutely no sense. When I teach classes, I always get asked by people in marketry classes, can I do this? And my answer is always, I don't know, can you? So that's that. There you go. I don't know.
I think that's great advice, and it kind of goes along with, well, I guess I shouldn't say goes along with. I think there's a difference between making something for yourself, like what you do, which probably gives you a lot of creative freedom to just try new things. But when you put yourself in a box and you have to make that money, and those sales are, you have to
right
in the box. But yeah, if you have to do that to make a living, then you're probably not. You're going to feel a lot of pressure if you're pushing yourself to try something new.
And that's why I mean, and when I say that, I'm mainly talking to like the hobbyist set. I think that there's a lot of kind of dovetailing off that. There's in the hobbyist world, right? I think a lot of hobbyists are looking at professionals to see what they should be doing when it's like, that's not the way to be thinking about it, right? Professionals have a very different set of like incentives. They have a different set of like goals and things like that, but we're all like mixed in the same space, you know? And so it can kind of like mess things up. So it's like, it can get your head in this space. It's like, well, I think I need this certain tool to do a certain thing. I think I need to do a certain thing this certain way. I can't do this because it might mess it up. Or, you know, I think a lot of people get in the mindset of like, I need to be a production worker, when it's like, no, you're just like, remember, like if you're a hobbyist, you're just trying to have fun, right? You're like tinkering, screwing around. We're all just screwing around. So.
Awesome. Where can everybody find you?
I'm on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. My name, albert.a.klein. I also have a Substack, albertaklein.substack, that I put out twice a week. It's just a whole bunch of different thoughts, instructional stuff, nonsense.
Great.
That's awesome. All right, kids. Well, I suppose that kind of wraps some things up. We have an agenda for our new season of Sawdust Talk, and that means that we get to say really cool stuff like, we will see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Bye.